There's panic all over the beauty community right now. Pat Mcgrath has changed her beloved Mothership eyeshadow formula. We've been tagged in multiple videos to get clarity on whether or not Pat reformulated her famous baked jellies. Before we dive into the differences between Mothership 1 from 2015 and Mothership 12 from 2025, we need to set the record straight on what these formulas are. She never made baked jelly eyeshadows, at least not in the way the internet thinks she did. Inside the industry, as product developers working with manufacturing facilities, we call these slurries. Slurry is a hybrid wet powder texture. It can also emulate almost like a paste-like texture. And there's various methodologies of how it either gets dried, evaporated, or baked. This is not something you typically know unless you're a product developer or you work with manufacturing facilities. Let's go back to Mothership 1 real quick. When people talk about these high-impact dimensional shimmer shades, they often live in this quadrant of the Motherships. Technically, these four are hybrid powder formulas that may involve a baking step. And here's the kicker. Pat Mcgrath never marketed these eyeshadows as baked jellies. That came from the internet. So why is everyone calling them baked jellies? Confusion seems to stem from the packaging. Plastic pans, or should we call them what they're actually called, which is goudays. Specifically, these plastic goudays that we're going to overlay for you to see. I won't ruin my Mothership. This visual cue has become shorthand on the internet for baked jelly. But plastic gouday does not necessarily equal baked jelly. Brands that have actually used these plastic goudays, and shout out to Deepak Chopra for this list. Even if you see a gouday like this, it does not mean it's the same formula. It does not even mean it's the same exact manufacturer. It's really important to note that slurry is not a marketing term. It's used internally during the development process, not something you're going to see listed on Sephora's website or marketed by a brand. We have seen slurry, however, be used publicly recently, thanks to the Patrick Ta eyeshadow duos. That was only out of necessity, in my opinion. For those of you that don't remember, Patrick Ta launched this eyeshadow duo for $42. It was only when the internet went viral nuts about them that Patrick Ta felt he had to come online and explain the nuance of the formula being a slurry to justify the price.
Eyeshadows in these duos are not your normal eyeshadows. They are what you call a slurry.
Just for the record, we also made our video first.
Slurry formulas do allow for an extremely high level of pearl, which is how Patrick was able to achieve this type of shine and this type of dimensional wet finish, a hybrid style texture. Pro makeup artists and depotters already know this. These style formulas, the eyeshadow is not glued into the pan. Here's the plastic gouday. The gouday is glued in where there's a dot, but the eyeshadow is hypersensitive and sometimes can pop out. This happened to us and we showed it because it was a real moment and it's part of this technology. There are imperfections. Now, whether or not the eyeshadow that falls out of a pan is worth the money is up to you. It's a personal choice. But this is about explaining the manufacturing procedure and the novelty of the texture and the finish of the formula that it yields to help you understand even how Pat is charging the $128 for this eyeshadow palette. Manufacturing procedures are always evolving. Every year, these manufacturers push the limits of what they can achieve because that's innovation. It's exactly like a chef who has a secret sauce of a Michelin-starred restaurant that won't reveal their secrets. Slurry powders actually originated in Japan. Japan was driven to create slurry powders because they loved powder foundation, but at the time, the raw materials couldn't yield a creamy, smooth texture that would be nice spread across the entire face, and thus the innovation of slurry was born. Present day, every region all have their own iteration of slurry that create different finishes in powder, not just eyeshadow, all powder. This is not information that's readily available on the internet. It's very, very niche industry insider knowledge. And I'm not giving away any secrets and I'm not allowed, but I think it's important to open this conversation. I'm an active product developer and I'm teaching you this information to elevate your beauty knowledge so you can make better informed product choices. For those that want to go deeper, that's why we created Let's Learn About Beauty, our L-Lab course. We talk about how different regions yield different textures. When you're looking at Mothership 1, you can't see a pan on these four eyeshadows, but you can see a pan on all the others. Circular aluminum pan. Some of these eyeshadows in this palette are pressed. Now in the Petalmorphasis, every single eyeshadow in this palette has a pan. Why did Pat stop making these formulas? She evolved them. From what I've seen, after Mothership 8, there are no more plastic gouaches. That does not mean it is inferior technology. And these 4 eyeshadows in Mothership 12 are definitely an evolution of a certain type of slurry. I would argue that superior quality, again, 10 years later, to the innovation corner of our original Mothership 1. Very much still luxe, very much high impact, just a different style manufacturing procedure. And if I had to guess, I would guess that these 4 are some type of potential back injected slurry. You've seen some back injection slurries in some House Labs limited edition eyeshadows where you'll see the actual hole in the aluminum pan. You've seen some of this in Natasha Denona's product as well. All these different brands, different restaurants, similar ingredients, different chefs. Which brings me to my next point. We kind of have to retire "it's made in Italy" as a blanket explanation for baked jelly. What we should start thinking about, what are the nuances that you're noticing across maybe Pat Mcgrath and Natasha Denona, or Mothership 1 and Mothership 12. But let's get into what I think. As a beauty product developer, we're going to evaluate these. Mothership 1 versus Petalmorphasis Mothership 12. We're really going to focus on the innovation quadrant. Let's do a little swatch action and let's get them on the eyes. These are beautiful. So here's what you're getting on Mothership 1. The top is going to be that rose gold with the iridescence. Blue doesn't have as much of that iridescence in the same way. Mothership 1 gave me creamy. The top is more transparent in the base. This blue shade is such an explosive level of both pearl and pigment at the same time. I do still think these are modern and relevant. I would wear this happily. I wouldn't know in touching this is 10 years old. However, when my finger touches the surface of this teal in Mothership 12, there's more of an innate wax-like creamy sensation. It's different. Mothership 1 is smooth and sensual. Mothership 12 is more this wet style cream to powder hybrid. Here's the green, high voltage, matches my nail. I'm also gonna pull what I would call an orange gold. Let's get into the nuance here. So that is a really strong pigment load.
That looks really nice.
What I'm experiencing on the release of these eyeshadows is higher payoff. Even higher payoff than the blue. And more uniformity, more color intensity. The question here though, can we translate what we've seen on our arm to our eyes? Let's grab Mothership 1. This one's actually really, really creamy, but I can see, there it is. See how dust collected as I picked it up, just spilt all over my vanity. There's a bit of fallout. Even when I went in there, look at how much product picked up when I just dipped my brush in. Coming in with this cool tone taupe. This is not gonna be the world's best eyeshadow look. This is for evaluation purposes. It's a more dense brush, and these types of brushes are designed to fit directly on the eyelid. When I'm looking at Mothership 1, I'm trying to assess how many layers I would have to sit here to add to get the intensity that I experienced when I did the swatch on my arm. This is my 3rd time I'm packing product on top and going with my finger. This is how Pat herself applies the product in many instances. And I can take product, direct apply to get a higher intensity voltage look.
Wow, that already looks so intense.
I know. It's really pretty. Do I know that there are eyeshadows out there presently that can give me more uniformity? I do. I'm a product developer. I better know. These are still feeling really modern in the way that they look. Let's get into 2025. Mothership 12. Let's go in here. Already you'll see a lot less of that fallout. Great payoff. I prefer what's happening here in my more modern matte. The pressing is more condensed. It's very effortless, this blend. We're gonna load her up with my teal. You can see it's a really clean pickup. Look at that. You see how shiny and wet that is?
I didn't see a lot of fallout.
No, it's the liquid binder system that's inside of here that's really creating this uniformity on the laydown too. To be able to deliver no fallout, this intensity in terms of color payoff, the shimmer, the release of the product, the uniformity, it's a celebration of where we are in 2025 of innovation. It really is. This eyeshadow is sickening. Look at how wet it still looks on the eyelid. It still also looks wet, but this has more particle to it. Very minimal fallout. I don't see how anyone could be upset about Petalmorphasis in terms of the performance. Also don't see how anyone would be upset about what you're able to do 10 years ago and what you're able to do in 2025. The real question becomes, do you need a 10 well $128 palette? You're able to play and you're able to achieve a lot in today's age with products that maybe aren't at this price point. It's always up for you to decide. They are very much modern upgrades to the original Mothership, and they are honoring the legacy of what Mothership is, and they are not baked jellies.